Hello and welcome to the Welcome Webinar series with the Business Office and Financial Aid. Today we're going to be talking about the ins and outs of taking care of the business of being a college student. And we have Brandy Gallhue here, and I'll let her introduce herself, and then she can go over and she'll introduce Joanne, and she can introduce herself. But I'm Stephanie Stiltner. I'm a member of the GROWL committee, and I'm also the Director of Family Connections. So we'll go ahead and get started. And Brandy, if you don't care to introduce yourself, and then we'll throw it over to Joanne.
Sure. My name is Brandy Gallhue, and I'm the Associate Vice President of Finance and Business Affairs and Controller, which basically just means money. So all the things where we take your money, we give you money, refunds, paying bills, all that sort of thing. From a student perspective, the business office helps you the most in managing your student account. So that's going to be all of your refunds if you get one, picking up a Workstudy check, reviewing things on your student account that may look off, or you just have questions, you just need something. But then also you'll be getting emails from me in my office as the summer goes on regarding Bear Paws. And Bear Paws is our clearance event. So if there are things that you're missing as the time approaches for you to come to campus in the fall or begin classes in the fall, we will be communicating with you what those are and try to help you get those things taken care of. And so then, Joanne.
Hello, I am Joanne Cantrell in the Student Financial Services Office or Financial Aid. Our office is located on the ground floor of the administration building, and hopefully soon you will be able to come in here and see us one-on-one. But our office is the office that actually puts together your financial aid package. We help you with any documents that you may need for verification or your entrance counseling, master promissory note if you're accepting the loans, and just different things with your financial aid.
Good. So does anybody have any questions straight off the bat that you know you're like, I'm going to log in and I'm going to talk to the business office financial aid people because I've got this question I want to ask right off the bat before we get started and kind of go into the things these ladies mentioned in detail? No. Okay, let me go back to a few more housekeeping notes now that we had a few more people join us. We have a chat feature turned on, so if you don't care to put the questions in the chat feature, or unmute your mic or turn your video on and kind of wave at us and raise your hand and get our attention, and we'll make sure we answer your questions along the way, because we want this to be a conversation. So, and any and all questions are welcome, okay? But we're going to try to cover as many topics as we can. So use the chat feature, and I'm going to ask Brandy and Joanne at some point during the conversation to put their contact information in the chat feature. That way you can kind of have that handy too and save that out. But just like most of us are used to living in the world of Zooms and video meetings, so just leave your mic on mute unless you need to ask a question or if you're talking to us, and just use the chat feature or turn your video on if you need us for anything. One thing I want to make sure the students understand is that your GROWL course on the Canvas course, these webinar series are not a replacement for that. This is in addition to. You still need to log on to your GROWL course and watch the videos and complete your GROWL quiz. This is this real short quiz. And when the completion of that quiz is what signals your advisor to contact you about making your schedule. So that's phase one. Some of you may have done that, and that's great. So after you do that, you still need to go in that course and refer to that material and go to the what's next section, because there's a list of action items that you need to complete throughout the summer, and there's a post-GROWL checklist that Brandy mentioned, and then we'll kind of go through some of those items today, because a lot of those are the taking care of the business side of things that need to happen this summer while you're home with your families. So just make sure you're still logging into that Canvas course, you're still checking your email, and you're still watching for announcements on GROWL. Okay, so you mentioned, let's go back to, first of all, financial aid award letter. Joanne, let's break the award letter down in the smallest of terms. What's on that award letter? What does it look like, and what do all those things mean?
Okay, on the award letter, of course, your student name, address, your ID, it will show you your budget cost. It will have tuition and the amount. If it shows 0 on room and board, that just means that we have you packaged as living off campus. And then if it has the amount, $8,050, that means that we have you packaged as living on campus. Then on down the award letter, you will see different award codes. That starts with Pell Grant, that's federal money. KTG, if you're eligible, that's state money. KEES, KEES, that's state money. We also have our academic scholarships, athletic scholarships, that's all institutional money. We have different institutional scholarships that could be listed. Pikeville Promise, P-Need, different things like that. And then also we have your subsidized, unsubsidized loans. Now, you may not want loans, but we are supposed to inform students of everything that you're eligible to receive. So those loans are there, that you still have to log on to WebAdvisor and either accept or reject the loans. So that will be a total there. It will show you if you have still an out-of-pocket cost, or you could even receive a refund. But now down below there will be your work study listed. If you indicated that you are interested in work study and you are eligible for work study. Now, when we ask you to go to WebAdvisor and accept aid, that's basically work study and loans. We will take care of accepting the rest. And do have students that it will show that their state grants are ineligible. That's just simply because we're the only ones that can accept those. Students, you can see them, but it won't let you accept or decline them.
Okay.
So maybe just something to add to that, if they do see the amount, they're gonna get it, right? Like, don't worry about it, it will come off once it's time to disperse it.
Correct. And we don't disperse everything at once. So when we start dispersing, it will be loans first generally, if we still do this year like we usually do. The aid will show at different times, and you'll see your balance reduce as well. Now, loans cannot disperse to a student's account unless you have accepted them and also completed your entrance counseling and master promissory note at studentloans.gov.
Okay.
Those students that are listed in education, if we've offered you the Grad Teach grant, you also have to accept that and complete your agreement to serve and your entrance counseling to that as well at studentloans.gov.
Okay. Brandy, anything to add at this point?
No, just I think that when, as we're going through those processes, when you get onto WebAdvisor, which the student's username and password is the same for everything. So it gets you onto WebAdvisor to look at all of your aid, your account balance. That's even where you can go and update your banking information for refunds. You can see all of your personal information there. And it's the same username and password for your Canvas courses, your email. But once you log on, you can, depending on what you're looking for, when you look at your statement, you can go by term, you can go by year. But if you just go to that main screen and just see that front line of whatever that number is, either a balance due or a refund, depending on at what point in the disbursement it is, that could change. So click into that to drill down for more detail, and you'll see there what is pending versus what is actual and has been dispersed. So if you, just so happen to pick the hour in between, when financial aid is dispersing your aid and hasn't dispersed it yet, you might see a balance. It's going to go away in like 30 seconds. So just make sure that you're going in there and looking at your pending aid too, because that will go onto your account. It just may not be there at that moment that you're looking at it. And up until the point where we disperse, everything is pending. So that kind of gives you a better picture of what it's going to be. And then during the transition, it goes up and down and changes. So just, you know, don't freak out if you see it at the moment that nothing's on there, because it will go on there.
One other thing that I didn't mention is the verification process. Now that has to be completed with Kia before any financial aid can post. So just make sure that you log on to Kia's website, upload any documents that they're requesting if you are chosen for verification, because that process will hold up your financial aid from posting.
Yep. And you find out that you have something by checking your UPOC email. That's what Kia uses to communicate with our students. And I got one because, well, my daughter got one and showed it to me. It's not real fluffy. So it doesn't start out with, hey, I'm so excited that you've been chosen for verification. But it does, you know, does a pretty good job of explaining to you what's needed, what's missing, and then they communicate with you very well. So, you know, that's our company that has outsourced the verification process. And, you know, either the financial aid office can answer your questions or they can, but they are very quick to respond. I called just to see what happened and they answered immediately, answered my questions. It was a fine experience. But you do have to make sure that you're checking your UPOC email or your actual mail. So as long as we have your correct mailing address, you'll get communication that way too.
So how do you know, do students get selected for verification and families? What's verification? Is it based on the FAFSA or taxes, or where does that come? Is it random, like a lottery?
It's random. It's from their FAFSA when they file that FAFSA.
Okay.
So processing services will randomly choose those students. It's not because there's, you know, an error on the FAFSA. It's just that they're choosing students just to verify the information is correct.
Okay, so even incoming students and their families could have been selected for verification before they've even enrolled as a college student, just because they've applied for the FAFSA. They may have done that, so they may be in the holding pattern right now. So
yeah, we only send to Kia the students that are accepted. So if they've been accepted and they're chosen for verification, then they would start getting calls, emails, letters from Kia.
So Kia is KHEAA?
Yes, it's Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority.
Okay.
Kentucky students are really familiar with Kia because of their Keys money.
Okay. So could out-of-state students be selected for verification by Kia?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But they're not that familiar with Kia's website.
Okay. But questions, they could call the financial aid office.
Yes.
Okay.
We help students, we help students upload documents if they need us to as well.
Okay. Questions from any of our guests? Nope. So you mentioned WebAdvisor, Brandy, and we have single sign-on for login. So they're one username and one password per student. So they use that to log into their courses or their email or anything that's related to UPOC accounts. So go back over again, if you don't care, Brandy, what was included in WebAdvisor, and then how do they access that?
Sure. So you would go to upoc.edu. You go all the way down to the main bottom. There's a little, you know, wording right in the middle that says WebAdvisor. You click there. It takes you to a login screen, put in your username and password. And then on one side of that is everything that has something to do with you as a student. On the other side, I think it's more general things, places you can go, things you can do if you want to. But as of this year coming up, you will be able to see your pay advices as a Workstudy student. That is where you're going to go to enter your time in the event that you are chosen for Workstudy or choose to get a job on campus. It's hourly. You'll get reminder emails from me every time it's time to input your hours. And then you'll get reminder emails from me again if your supervisor hasn't approved it. But that's where you would go to enter those. If you have anything that is specific to you as a student, you go there. That is where you would put in your banking information if you want to receive things like your payments via direct deposit. If you do want to change your address, you need to do that through the registrar's office. We don't leave that open for you to do that yourself because the registrar verifies that it is in fact an actual address. We don't want there to be like P.O. box and then the number is missing and we can't contact you because you've left something out. So if you do want to update your address, you contact that office, and then they will put it in the system. We all use that. So we don't get to change it. No single office can go in and just make a decision. Initially, it's admissions with your application. So we'll use that address up until the point where you choose to change it. So also on WebAdvisor, you could go to look at your account or make a payment. So once you have registered for classes, completed your housing application, and accepted all of your aid, that is going to be whatever is either your balance due or the amount that you're going to get in a refund. And you will only get refunded if you have loans in excess of what it costs to attend UPOC. So if you're there completely on institutional aid and somehow one ends up being a little bit more, we don't refund that, because that's really UPOC giving you a discount. Like, that is us investing in your education too. So the only time you get any kind of a refund is if the loans are in excess of what you need. And I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, but if you only need to close like a small gap, you don't have to choose to take out the full amount that's available to you. So if you only want to cover whatever your balance due is going to be and not end up with a refund, you can do that, because no matter the amount of the loan, you're going to have to pay that back. And, you know, if you're looking out for, I only need this $1,000 to finish my semester, then they can adjust that and help you to only get your $1,000 and not the full $2,790 or whatever it may be. So then once you're on there on WebAdvisor, you can see your balance. You can see everything that goes into your balance. If you expected maybe an outside scholarship from something from your local high school, or some, you know, a company that has chosen to sponsor you, or something that you have applied for that you don't see, you can give us a call. And if we haven't received it, then maybe we might need your help in reaching out to whoever it is that's supposed to give us that scholarship. But we do want you to also look at that and make sure it's correct. So if you decide you want to live on campus, you get approved for off campus, that charge doesn't come off. If you get a parking ticket that you don't think you should have had and you see it on your account, we do want you to look at that occasionally, just to make sure that it's what you expected it to be. All the A charges you thought it would be. Choose to make a payment of the full amount, of a part of the amount. You can go over whatever period of time that you choose. We don't have a formal payment plan during your time here. And we also are one of the few schools that don't make you have the semester that you're in paid in full to be in the semester. So if your first semester at UPOC is fall 2020 and you owe $2,000, then you have the entire semester to pay that $2,000. Most schools would have you do something and pay in full beforehand or start a formal payment plan. We don't do that. So we do at least give you that time. When it's time to do registration for the spring, so that's going to occur probably in October this year, I would imagine, then you do have to have your balance taken care of by then. If there's one of those things that I know that I'm going to get money on October the 29th and I want to register on the 15th, and you contact our office, we will, first of all, we go over your account with you, make sure, have you looked at it? Is this what you expected it to be? Is there some loan you didn't accept that you thought would cover something? And then once, you know, you've said, this is it, this is what I want, this is when I'm going to pay this, then we will work with you on that. But we do, you know, make the student contact us, review the account with them. We make them sign something that they understand they're getting to register with the balance, which is kind of outside of our policy, and we'd rather not do it, but we understand things happen. And then at any point in time, if you decide at 4 a.m. you want to make a payment on your account, you can do that. The minute your payment goes through, you'll see it come off of your balance. If there's ever an issue and later something is rejected, then our office will contact you and let you know card didn't work, e-check didn't work. If you use a credit card, either in the office or online, it will charge you a fee. And that's not something that we benefit from, so we don't push it. We don't care how you pay as long as you pay. But if you are logged onto WebAdvisor, you can do an electronic check. So that is where you get the information directly off of your checking account, routing number, account number, make sure the address is correct, and it will come directly out of your checking account, and there is no fee associated with that. We can't do that same thing over the phone. We just don't have the capability with our third-party processor, because from a security standpoint, we shouldn't be holding on to your checking information, so we just don't. And then, of course, if you come into the office, you can pay with a credit card, cash, paper check, money order, whatever it may be. One other thing, if you're a Workstudy student and part of your plan is to use the money that you get from your position on campus to pay your bill, you do have to give us permission to do that. We can't just say, oh, here's a paycheck and you owe us a balance. We're going to keep your money, because that's your paycheck. You've earned it. We don't have the right to do that. So you will have to give us permission for that. You can't just, like, inside of your head say, I'm going to work that off and not tell us because we won't know. And if any point throughout the process, you're confused, you don't know where to click, you don't know what screen on WebAdvisor to click on, for now, I guess you could, call or email and we could walk you through it. If you're on campus, you can make an appointment or just come in. We're always there to help. But with, some of these screenshots, it's pretty easy for an email just for me to send it back to you and show you which box you should click on first and what screen you should look at first. Any questions?
Question.
Yes, Stephanie, I've got one. Brandy.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me turn my video back on. Apologize.
Okay.
On these payments, when they're being sent in and whatnot, is physical receipts emailed or mailed out for this transaction?
Yes. I mean, if you wanted us to mail it, we would, but normally we would email it to the student's UPOC email account.
Okay, fair enough then.
Yep. But you'll see it also, like, if you look at the account, you'll see it has a little receipt number on there and it matches the same thing that's going to be coming to you in the mail.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions at this point? That kind of segues into one thing I wanted to see if you wanted to share, Brandy, about you're talking about the student's account and the student can log in. We talked about the student have a single login. At this point, families do not have access to student information, student IDs or passwords. That's all protected through FERPA. If you don't care to kind of hit the high notes on FERPA and then talk about how that applies directly to the financial part and the financial aid.
Sure. So there is a federal regulation called FERPA, and I, as not being an expert, I'm not sure what it stands for, but I do know what it means. And it's basically protecting the student's information. So we do get many parents who are the ones who are paying the bill and figuring out how to cover college, and the kids just off having a really good time playing ball and hopefully making straight A's. But we can't communicate to you any information about the student's account unless that student has signed a FERPA release form giving us permission to. The student can, when they sign that form, give permission for grades. They can give permission for student account. It just depends on what they say that it's okay to talk to you about. So as long as we can look it up and it says this student gives this person permission to talk about their student account, then I could tell you down to the penny, and we can talk all day long about how did we get to this amount, what did the student do incorrectly, what did they do right, what does this mean. But unless that's signed first, I can't technically talk to anyone but the student, which does upset some parents, and I understand completely, but it's just one of those things that we have to abide by, because it does also prevent a stranger on the street from calling, who knows what situation would even be a good example, to get information that they have no right to access. So usually the student and the parent will come up with some sort of shared password, and then the registrar's office puts it in the system. You'll call the business office. We'll say, sure, what's the password? You give it to us, and then we'll talk to you all day long. So do make sure that you talk to your student about that, take care of that form, have it signed and sent back to the registrar's office. I'm not sure how we're doing it now that we're doing this kind of electronic segue in the summertime. But as long as we have that, then we can talk to you about whatever questions you have.
Yeah, I think we're gonna determine that process later this summer when we figure out more in person, kind of what that in person timeline is. So that's something. Hold on and ask your student to make sure they check their email, and that information will also be shared on our family communication portal if you're in part of that the UPOC family experience.
Yep.
Get in part of
and
that.
then also hopefully soon we'll have student proxy available to be used. As of right now, most of the setup is ready, but I'm not quite ready to make it a thing to be tested and sent out yet. This whole going from 16 to 8 weeks per term kind of took precedent on setup and doing new things. But as soon as that is available, it will be a way for the student to log on and give kind of a mini account access to parents, guardians, spouses, siblings, whoever they want to be able to log on and pay. The student will be able to choose, do I want them to be able to only make payments, which is kind of funny, but do I want them to only pay whatever this box is going to let them pay, or do I want them to also see what makes up that amount? So once that's ready, we'll send out instructions. I'll have some students come in and test and make sure from different perspectives what works and what doesn't. But as of right now, we don't have that ready to just click the button and go. Hopefully soon, but I don't want to give a date just in case I break it and have to fix it again.
Questions? More questions? What about, we kind of skipped over this, but let's not all assume that we all know the FAFSA. So, Joanne, if you want to talk about, I know FAFSA is like Financial Aid 101. And we talked to some students last week that hadn't completed the FAFSA for this upcoming school year, 2021. So if you'll talk about that process a little bit and kind of what tax information and just kind of go back to that 101 for us real quick.
Sure. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. The student, of course, has to register for a username and password. It's called the FSA ID and password. And if the student is dependent, then a parent must also have an FSA ID and password, which when they log on to the website and start the process, they can create those usernames and password right there at the beginning. So when they get logged on, of course, it's going to ask all of their information, beginning with their address, what grade they will be coming into. I see a lot of them answer this question incorrectly because they're thinking that they're graduating high school and then they'll answer it as they're a graduate. But it's actually the first year, it's first incoming freshman. They're seeking either an associate degree or a bachelor's degree. Then on the financial information, it's asking if they did not file taxes, and the 2021 academic year is based on 2018 taxes. So the student would just simply say, will not file. Now, they could have earned income though, so they would still list that income in the appropriate area. And then they just go from screen to screen. They'll get to the parent's information if the parent filed taxes, and then they can look at the parent's 2018 tax information. They can list that in manually. The best thing though that I would recommend is that they use the IRS to transfer that information directly into their FAFSA. So, and there's a link there. They just click on that link. It takes them to the IRS website. They complete that screen as how the parents filed their taxes, what type of tax form they used, and put in their address that's exactly like was on their tax information. Then it imports directly into their FAFSA. This is very beneficial to use in case they are chosen for verification, because Kia will use that and not have to ask for their tax returns. So that part would already be completed. And then they just keep going through, you know, at first they also list their school codes. They can list several schools on there that they want to receive their information. That's at the beginning. They make sure they go through everything. If there's something that's incorrect on the screen, it will flag it to keep them from going to the next screen. They'll have to correct it with the tax information. And they make sure that they go through, they sign it electronically, make sure a parent signs it electronically. If they submit it without these signatures, then it's going to come to us as rejected. It doesn't calculate that expected contribution because it has to be signed by both student and parent to calculate. Now that EFC, expected family contribution, is what we use then to determine their Pell eligibility and other types of aid as well.
Thank you. Questions from our guest? No. Brandy, what are some of the questions the frequently asked questions, the things that some people get the most hung up on, or just the simplest questions, or things that are a myth that you're like, no, that's not quite this way, it's this way? What's the things that you repeat the most often throughout the summer as families and students get ready to come to campus?
Probably number one is, when is my balance due? And it is literally up until the moment you're ready to register. Obviously, we would love for you to pay it like today if you want, if you just want to call. But it's literally like, so whatever if your registration date is October the 15th, as long as it is paid by October the 14th, or you've communicated with us that you need until the 18th, we've made an arrangement, whatever it may be, you have literally up until the time for you to register to pay your balance. Now, if you're going to transfer, if you're going to graduate school, if you're going to graduate, if you're going to take a summer class at a community college and home and then transfer it back to us in the fall and you need a transcript, then we're kind of more strict on having the balance throughout that point in time. But again, if it's one of those in-between issues and you just need a transcript to come back, we'll work with you. If you're ready to graduate, then we're not going to let you have your diploma or a transcript for something else until your balance is paid in full, because that's kind of the last time that we will ever be able to hold on to you and make you take care of it. But payment date up until the last day until you're ready to register. Another question, most of it's bare bucks things that we get, which, my office does kind of manage the card aspect of that. I don't know if you want me to talk about that here or if there's a housing section too. Okay. So if you are a residential student living on campus, you're going to have your ID card, which you'll upload a picture at some point. We will turn it into a physical card. You will get it when you come to campus this fall. And that card gives you access to some buildings on campus. So some of our buildings have actual physical keys and some have kind of a swap function. So that card gives you access to some rooms and your meal plan. So if you lose that, even if you think I'm going to find it as soon as I get home this weekend, tell us in the meantime so we can turn it off. Because for every minute that you don't have that card, someone else could be getting into your room, eating all your Chick-fil-A, doing the things you wouldn't want them to be doing with it. But that card, if you lose it or it's stolen or something happens and you need a replacement, it's $10. If you're swapping and it doesn't work, if you ran over it with a car, if your dog chewed it up, if you bring it into us and we're replacing it and you have it in your hand, then we don't charge you. But even if you think, I don't need to pay that $10 because I'm going to find it, tell us until you do find it. We will temporarily make it not work and then turn it back on when you do find it. And that's just to protect everything that you have on there. So if you're a residential student, you're going to get automatically a meal plan, and that is unlimited swaps in the cafeteria and 250 bare bucks per term. If you're someone who is going to enjoy the food court, and I'm talking as though it's going to be open, I don't know for sure what's going to be open or not open, but let's pretend it will be. So if you're going to be using the food court a lot for Chick-fil-A, Einstein Bagels, and the Pod, which is kind of a little convenience store on campus, if you're going to do that more than you think 250 will cover, there are two other options of meal plans for residential students, and the only thing that changes is the amount of bare bucks that you get. But that doesn't mean that whatever you get, you're stuck with. If you get option one and you still want $50 more in bare bucks, then you just contact the business office, you give us $50, we put on your card, and you have access to it until it runs out. Your bare bucks will go from fall to spring. So if at the end of the fall semester you have some left over, you can use those during the spring semester. But at the end of the following spring, it starts over. So whatever you haven't used, you lose. So just go get an extra milkshake or buy whatever you want. If you're a commuter student and you still want a meal plan, or you plan on going to the cafeteria or Chick-fil-A, it is cheaper for you to come into the business office and add bare bucks to your ID card than it is to pay out of pocket. You get a student discount. You don't have to pay taxes because it's now considered a student meal plan. So it saves you money. And really, from our perspective, it doesn't matter, but it's better for you. So we're not, we don't go around and stop everybody at the door and say, wait, if you're a student, get you a meal plan. But for your information, it does help you. It's much cheaper. And it's the same rules, goes from fall to spring, stops at spring, doesn't go over into the summer. And anything, like you can't use it to pay for your friend in the cafeteria. Like if your swaps are your swaps, then you shouldn't, be using it for people that don't have swaps. But if you want to use your Bear Bucks, you can use that to pay for other people. So if as a student you have Bear Bucks on your card and your dad comes and wants to have lunch with you, you can use that to buy him something at Chick-fil-A or the cafeteria or wherever. But your swaps are your swaps, because we pay per student for a term, and we don't want all that information to get messed up and taken off. And again, you can't live on campus and not have a meal plan, and that is for you more than anything else, because it ensures us that you're being taken care of, you have places to eat, we don't have to worry about you being hungry and not having something for dinner. So we don't really split it. If you have allergies or something that prevents you from being able to eat in the cafeteria, then contact the Office of Student Affairs, and they will start the process of trying to get food accommodations or working with how we can help make that an easier process for you. But the default is you live on campus and you get a meal plan. That's really the only residence life question I ever answer, and that's just because the business office just manages those cards. Anything else, like size of your refrigerator, can I plug this up? I have no idea. I just know what's on that card.
Good. Any other questions you get asked a lot that are kind of, we can squish a myth, or anything that people seem to be really kind of worried about that we can kind of demystify early?
I've gotten a lot of emails recently from incoming students about work study positions, and I think that we have another webinar to talk about that process. But once positions are ready to be posted, the students will be able to apply for those. I'm not sure which jobs will or will not be available, depending on whatever our COVID-19 restrictions end up being. So maybe we have to have more people in an office, less people in this office, so we might have to split it up some. I would imagine, though, we will do whatever it takes to make it work. I don't think we'll eliminate positions. I think we'll just have to figure out, maybe you space your time out more, you don't have two filing in one office at the same time. But the student, the jobs are going to be there. You're going to be able to apply for it. It's one of those things also that you had to indicate on your FAFSA that you wanted work study. If you get farther into the summer and you realize that you made a mistake, then you can, I think, edit your FAFSA, or the financial aid office can help you with changing that if you did one and you didn't want it versus the other. And if you don't qualify for federal work study, there are also institutional positions on campus. And we have a software system called Bears at Work, and that is where the student will log on, same username and password. They will upload a little photo, a resume. It's kind of like, you're actually going to apply for a real job. It gives you the experience of having to go through an interview, kind of pump yourself up, like, why should I choose you instead of this other freshman that I don't know? So it's a fun experience, and the students gain a lot from it, especially after having to do it a couple different times with different supervisors, which is why I think one student should probably jump around from offices. Don't do the whole thing your whole 4 years, because it does give you a little bit of it's work experience, because for the most part we'll let the students do some of the things that we do. And so they actually are learning what it takes to run the office and what it takes to be in this position. So the students will get to do that, whether it's federal work study or institutional. There are some summer positions, they go through the same process, I'm pretty sure. So a lot of the questions I've gotten are, I want to work on campus, but I don't know what to do. And really that's because we didn't get to, at GROWL, say, don't worry, you don't have to worry about it yet. So it'll be coming. The information will be ready for you whenever the jobs are ready to be posted.
Students can edit their FAFSA,
Okay.
but I actually would prefer that they just contact us, because if they're not chosen for verification, they go back and make changes. Every time they touch that FAFSA, it's a chance that they could be chosen for verification.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to take that chance to have to go through that verification process just for changing work study.
Excellent.
So they could let us know, and if they're eligible for work study, we could award that without going through all of that.
Okay.
And the main thing for those that are awarding work study is to be sure they accept it on WebAdvisor.
Good. And that leads into another question, Joanne, that I kind of was thinking. So what if they thought they had requested work study or accepted it and they hadn't, or if there's something else on their award letter that they don't understand, or they thought there's a lot of outside scholarships, especially for incoming first-time students, that they've received one time, one semester. scholarships. So what if there's something missing, or they have a question specifically about their award letter? What do we do?
They can always email FINAID, that's FINAID @upike.edu, or call the office. We'll be glad to go over that award letter with them, see what's missing, if anything is missing, and take care of it that way.
Sorry, I was on mute. What's the best?
Okay, I thought it was mine.
Can you read lips now at this point? We should all.
No, I was trying to.
So what's the best phone number to call at this point?
606-218-5254. That's the main number that's coming to the financial aid office.
Okay, we had mentioned in GROWL orientation and students and with the family information that we've shared about GROWL and the transition, making the transition to campus, that we've encouraged them to make appointments with financial aid. So if a family or a student calls to make that appointment, they say, I saw this on the GROWL course. They say, call financial aid, get an appointment. What do I do? So what happens when you get one of those calls? What can they expect during that appointment?
Well, when they call, make the appointment, we'll set that up at a time that they can be together and that we're in the office, that they can call. We will go over their award letter line by line with them, answer any questions that they need, tell them at that point any out-of-pocket expense that they may have. We just go through everything with them during that time.
Okay. Other questions that anybody has? If you want to send it to me privately in the chat, I'll ask it and not necessarily say who it comes from. And of course, if those questions, because this is, we're talking about everything in general terms, about things that apply to the whole campus. But that's where those individual appointments come in with Brandy or Joanne, that talks about your family's specific financial situation or the award letters, or if you have some of those other changes. Joanne, what if there is a major, COVID has changed lots of things. In the past few months, a lot of family situations have changed dramatically. So what if there has been a major change to someone's family income or family structure, or can you change the FAFSA, or what does it look like?
We can. We have to, of course, talk to the student to see what has happened. We have an application. It's called a professional judgment. Every institution, you know, we have that capability of meeting with the students, determining what's going on, and change that FAFSA for them. Parents have lost their jobs. We have to, of course, receive documentation to show what we're going to change. So when we look at everything, we determine we have everything we need, we can go in and do a professional judgment on that FAFSA. We can change their income of what it was from 2018 to what we've estimated that it's going to be for 2019. The EFCs can drop tremendously doing that as well, where a student was not eligible for a Pell Grant and things like that before, they could possibly be afterwards. So the students just basically contact me and I will discuss it with them. Then I send them the application with all of the documents marked that I need. They just send it back to me, fax it, email it, whichever, with all the documentation. Then once I receive everything, it will be reviewed. If it looks as though it would help the student, then I make the corrections.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, Brandy, if you or Joanne, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share? Did we cover everything that you wanted to make sure we shared at this time?
I think so, but I don't think it can be said enough that if you have any questions, literally any questions, and I promise you, any questions, just email or call us. And the business office tends to be the one that is at the bottom and get the most random amount of information. And I am in so many different groups, and I'm nosy and ask so many questions of other offices that even if I don't know what it is, I know exactly who to send you to find out the answer. So, you know, don't sit at home and be like, oh man, I wish I knew that, because we've heard it. It's probably a very valid question. Don't feel like it's silly. Especially, you know, if it's your first time as a student or as a parent of a college student, it changes all the time. Nothing is just easy and cookie cutter. So don't hesitate at all to ask any of us anything that might be bothering you or you want to know.
Okay. So I thought same thing. I always tell families, I never want you to wonder or worry about something when really a quick text or a phone call, I can probably squish that and just say, you know, never have to wonder or worry about any of those things. I thought you were going to say, check your email. Check your email.
Oh, that too.
That's your thing.
That too.
Check your email, all of you. I was thought, because that is the thing. That's how we send all official communication to students. Check your email. Check your email. Yeah.
Let me start over. Check your email.
Okay. There we go. Joanne, did you have anything, or you think we're good?
I think if we have anyone that hasn't filed their FAFSA, that they hurry and do that, especially if they're Kentucky residents. State grants, you know, are limited. So at this time, we haven't been told that they have dispersed all their money for 2021 yet. But there's always a chance that they will reach that max. And if you haven't filed your FAFSA, then at that point, then you just miss out of a lot of money.
Absolutely. All righty. One last chance for questions. I guess we did a great job of explaining everything. Everybody, we got all the experts in the room. Everybody knows their stuff and they're good. But the bottom line is we are here to help you along the way, and there's resources out there on our website, on the family communication portal for family members, on the GROWL website for students, or we're just a phone call away. So that's the main point you can take away, and ask us anything at any time. So with that, I guess we'll close it until next time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.